Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia. Welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Vancouver Titans preview. So then, the Vancouver Titans, they were very, very close to doing it, weren't they? They were very close to coming in as they were runaway, coming in and dominating the league at the first attempt, but they were pipped to the post by the San Francisco Shock, who stormed the end of the season. Vancouver Titans, however, did get that number one seed, although there seems to be a curse on that number one seed at the moment because the number one seed never seems to win the league. But Vancouver still did have a very good season. Now, one issue coming into the season was, did many people see Vancouver Titans as a one-trick GOATs team? I think they dispelled those rumours come the end of the season, where they still did very well on Orisa Sigma. We even saw a bit of the Hacksaw Genji as well towards the end of the season. I think they did very well on that, but when they came up against the quality of the Shock, they did lack, and it showed. So San Francisco Shock really did dominate towards the end of the season, and Vancouver Titans ultimately had to submit to that. And I think if we had the Shock that was as powerful as they were in the end of the season, throughout the season, I think Shock would have been number one seed. I don't think it would have been Vancouver. So, and Shock were catching Vancouver at the end of the season as well, in terms of the standings. But Vancouver Titans, what can you change much? I mean, they had a squad that was very good at working with each other. So they had Bumper on the main tank, who was, he was Bumper, right? So he was very, very interesting to watch. Very, very controversial at times in terms of his playstyle. He'd do outlandish things. But the thing is, he'd get away with it because the rest of the squad was so in tune with Bumper's play because they'd all been together at one runaway. They knew how to get Bumper out of those situations. They knew how to take advantage of Bumper's playstyle and turn it into an advantage instead of a disadvantage. Otherwise, a lot of other teams would have Bumper and they'd say, well, he keeps overextending or stuff like that. Well, Vancouver Titans turned that into an advantage rather than a disadvantage, and that's all to Vancouver Titans and previously Runaway's credit. It's really, really good to engineer that playstyle. But everything changes in 2020 for the Vancouver Titans, and it will be very interesting to see how this changes the way the Titans play. Because they haven't made all that many changes, don't get me wrong, but the changes they've made are controversial and are going to have probably a significant impact on the way they play. So, not much has changed in the back room. They've only lost Harsher as an assistant coach to the Houston Outlaws, and they have not endeavoured to replace him. So that's rather interesting. And then the players they've let go, they've actually let go of quite a few players. So TZ, the main tank, we saw TZ in the playoffs playing the Orisa. So that's a pretty ballsy move, and TZ wasn't poached by anyone. He's now unassigned TZ. It's unfortunate for him. I mean, he was let go from the London Spitfire because he didn't play, and then he played for Vancouver Titans, did pretty well in the playoffs, I thought, and, well, just got dumped, pretty much. Then two have gone to the Houston Outlaws, so this is Repel, the support, and then Hureg has become an assistant coach at the Houston Outlaws. Again, two players we didn't see a massive amount of last season, but two players that were very good for squad depth nonetheless for the Vancouver Titans. But here's the kicker. It's Bumper. So they've let Bumper go. And Bumper wasn't poached, Bumper wasn't taken by another team, Bumper's now unassigned, which is shocking if you ask me. He, no matter what you say about Bumper's playstyle, it was extravagant, it was interesting, shall we say, but Bumper was still a very good main tank, and he hasn't been picked up by anyone else in the league. He's not even been picked up by, he didn't even go back to Runaway. He probably would have had the option, I don't know, but he hasn't been picked up by anyone. This is extraordinary, to be quite honest with you. And rather concerning from Bumper's point of view. Like, that is to be, let's put it in perspective. He was main tank for the team that finished first in the league, and he now hasn't got a team and hasn't been able to pick up a team. That's pretty darn shocking, if you ask me. That's like in the inaugural season, NYXL letting go of Mano and him not getting another team. He would have been snapped up in a flash. So it's very interesting to see what has happened there. Now, it's probably majorly down to Bumper's playstyle. But the question is, what have they done to their roster then? So they've retained Hacksaw, Somin Su, Stitch, Janu, Slime and Twilight. No surprises there. Most of the roster should be retained. I don't know why they wouldn't be. They've replaced Repel with Rouge Hong from the Seoul Dynasty. And I think, honestly, this is a really darn good pickup. Not just because Rouge Hong has been a good player in the past and can be a good player, but he's an incredible leader. There's a reason why he's mostly referred to as the dad of Overwatch esports. He's incredibly good. He's a really good role model. Everyone loves Rouge Hong. Is there a person who doesn't like Rouge Hong? Let's be honest. And I think he'll be an extremely good leadership figure for this Titan squad. I think he really should probably be team captain or something like that. I think he would be a brilliant fit for that role. Will he start over Slime and Twilight? That is a big question, though. That is a massive question. So I don't think Rouge Hong is going to start somehow, but I think he's going to be there for that leadership that he offers, and he can come in at times. But then here comes the replacement for Bumper. It's Fissure. Okay, so do we roll over the Fissure issue once again? Right, Fissure started off his Overwatch League career at the London Spitfire, coming in as that two-part roster of Chengdu Panthera and GC Busan. Or C9 Chengdu was back then, not Chengdu Panthera. And he was kind of second choice behind Gesture at London Spitfire. He wasn't happy with that, and that's understandable. He was a very good main tank. So then he totaled himself off to LA Gladiators, where he did extremely well. He did extremely well at the Gladiators and turned that team's fortunes around. But he didn't stay at the Gladiators because he fell out with the Gladiators. There were rumours that he wasn't willing to commit to learning English, which is what the Gladiators were basically talking in and communicating in. So Fissure ended up leaving the LA Gladiators and going to the Seoul Dynasty, which seemed like a perfect fit for Fissure. You know, the staple Korean team in the Overwatch League, the only team representing Korea. They will obviously all communicate in Korean. All Korean roster, they shouldn't have any problems. Yeah, there were problems again. Fissure ended up falling out, and at the end of the season, well, not even at the end of the season, midway, he announced his retirement and left the Seoul Dynasty with Marvel, which actually wasn't too bad for the Seoul Dynasty in some respects. But for Fissure, he went and became kind of a streamer. He leaked the 222 Rollock, which has now come back to bite him on the backside. He got a massive fine for that. Now he's come back into the Overwatch League. The question is it a very good idea to be putting all of your eggs in one basket on a main tank that is known to be pretty volatile in terms of his temperament, shall we say? Now, don't get me wrong. If they can get the best out of Fissure, he will be incredible. He will be one of the best main tanks in the league, if not the best. He was when he was at the LA Gladiators. He was a thorn in the London Spitfire's side. He was known as one of the best main tanks, if not the best main tanks in the league when he was at the Gladiators. He's transformed that team. But if it comes to him falling out with the squad, or him not liking something, and then it just blows the entire squad apart. And so it's very ballsy for Vancouver Titans to do this. They have to... Well, there is a clause in Fissure's contract, right? Which apparently states that he cannot leave the Vancouver Titans midway through this season. He has to stay for the entire season. And that's all very well. And I think that's good of the Vancouver Titans to have the foresight to put that in his contract. And Fissure must really want to do well if he's agreed to that. I know what this is with Fissure. It's Vancouver Titans. He thinks he's going to win the league with Vancouver Titans. This is his aim here. Fissure has always wanted to win the league. He would have done that by now if he'd stayed with London Spitfire, but then again, he would have been a bench warmer. So, you know, there's ups and downs to that. He wouldn't have done it with the Gladiators. He wouldn't have done it with Seoul Dynasty. But with the Vancouver Titans, he has a chance of that. And I'm pretty sure that's why Fissure has come back. If someone like the Shanghai Dragons, or Seoul's a bad example because he's already been there, but anyone else in the league that's not San Francisco Shock, NYXL, or Vancouver Titans have come knocking on his door, I honestly don't think he'd be returning. So Fissure sees his chance here. The question is, it's all very good having that clause in his contract, but if he gets unhappy, which is not unknown, if he becomes unhappy, it can bring the entire squad's morale down. And Fissure won't play to his best. So do you want a player like that tied to your squad? And the biggest problem here, I believe, is that Vancouver Titans are playing, I think, with the smallest roster in this season right now. And this is a confirmed Vancouver Titans roster. They have confirmed this roster. It's an 8-man roster. Haxel, Soman, Stitch, Janu, Slime, Twilight, Fissure and Rouge Hong. There is no backup main tank. If Fissure goes wrong, it could implode the season for the Titans. It really, really could. And in some respects, it feels like a ticking time bomb. It's not brilliant. Would Fissure have signed with the Vancouver Titans if they had had a rival main tank that he'd have to stay ahead of? I don't know. I don't think he would have. Hence the fact they've got rid of TZ and Bumper, and they are both unassigned. I worry about the squad depth for the Vancouver Titans. I worry about their wholehearted eggs in one basket move on Fissure. I think this is a very ballsy move. Like, their coaches, Pajon and Yang Wang, must really, really think they can keep the leash on Fissure. And they have to. I'm being deadly serious. They have to keep the leash on Fissure. Because if he loses control, if he goes off the rails during this season, it will spell disaster for Vancouver. Absolute disaster. And that is why a lot of people are probably going to rank Vancouver Titans a little bit lower this year in their power rankings. Because they've lost the stability. They've lost the stability of that pretty much all runaway roster. They've lost that staple main tank in Bumper, which they had that playstyle nailed down for. So, it's a big move by Vancouver, and I really don't know where it will lead. There's a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of questions to be answered when we see the Vancouver Titans play in 2020. Talking of the Vancouver Titans playing in 2020, let's look at their schedule. So, they will start off in week 1 travelling to Dallas, where they will take on the pair of Los Angeles sides, the Valiant and the Gladiators. This will be very interesting. Fissure returning to the Gladiators for the first time since he left Seoul Dynasty. I'm sure he'll want to get one back over the Gladiators. Will they? This is an opportunity for the Gladiators to put their foot down and beat the Vancouver Titans. In terms of the Valiant, I think Vancouver Titans should have enough to see off the Valiant. And the thing is, the Vancouver Titans might be okay in the early days. It's as the season drags on, it's as fatigue becomes an issue with all this travelling during the homestand format. Will it get to Fissure? This is the big thing. In week 4, they will be taking on the Shanghai Dragons and Seoul Dynasty. You'll notice there's a big gap between week 1 and week 4, so they've actually got a pretty neat run in, but they will be going over to China. We don't know what the homestands are going to be like in China right now with the coronavirus outbreak, so that could be up in the air, but they will take on Shanghai and Seoul in week 4, Guangzhou in week 5, Chengdu and Hangzhou in week 6, and week 8 they will take on Dallas Fuel. Now, if we were talking about the Vancouver Titans roster from last year, I'd expect them to win all of their games. All of those games I'd expect them to win. But I'm not so sure anymore. I feel there are banana skins for the Vancouver Titans here, like the Gladiators, like Seoul, like Shanghai, maybe Hangzhou, maybe Chengdu even, that could really cause the Vancouver Titans some problems. And with that upset with the synergy now, with Bumper not being there, I think it could be a bit iffy for the Vancouver Titans this season. I'm not sure whether we're looking at a Titans that is as strong as we saw them last year. And it begs the question, who the bloomin' heck is going to take down the San Francisco Shock? That's all I'm asking. Someone's going to step up. Maybe a surprise team will. But I am going to leave it here for the Vancouver Titans. Next up is the last one. It's the Washington Justice. 20 teams and we are approaching our final team at last. The Washington Justice improved towards the end of last season quite remarkably. The question is, can they continue that form going into 2020? But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.